What if everything you've been told about cellulite is only half the truth? What if the real reason it refuses to go away isn't because you're not trying hard enough, but because you've been targeting the wrong problem this entire time? I'm going to show you something most people never hear, something that quietly sabotages even the most disciplined routines. And by the end of this, you may look at your body in a completely different way. I'm going to walk you through the most effective exercises to help reduce hip and butt cellulite. But before we even get there, there's something you absolutely need to understand. Because without this, nothing works the way it should. If you tend to carry most of your weight in your hips, your thighs, or your butt, and you've already tried dieting, squats, cardio, maybe even all three at the same time, and still felt stuck, almost like your body just refuses to change in those areas, then stay with me, because what I'm about to explain will connect all the dots in a way that finally makes sense. And here's the part that surprises most people, especially women. The female body was never designed to distribute fat evenly. It was designed, very intentionally, to store more fat in the lower half, around the hips, the buttocks, and the thighs. That's not a flaw. That's not something broken.
That's actually a deeply intelligent survival mechanism tied to reproduction, to carrying and nourishing a baby. And it goes even deeper than that. There are specific nutrients like certain omega-3 fatty acids that are highly concentrated in that hip area, almost like a reserve system, quietly supporting life when it's needed most. So when you look at cellulite, when you see that uneven texture or that lack of tone, what you're really seeing is not just fat. And this is where things take a turn most people never expect. Because beneath that surface, there's another factor at play, something rarely talked about, something called atrophy. But not just muscle atrophy. There's also atrophy in a very specific type of connective tissue known as fascia. And fascia is fascinating. Think of it like a supportive layer, almost like a form-fitting suit under your skin, shaping and holding everything together. But here's the part that changes everything. This fascia isn't passive. It's not just sitting there doing nothing. It actually has contractile properties, meaning it can tighten, respond, and adapt. But only if you use it. And if you don't, it weakens. Quietly, gradually, almost invisibly. So what you're seeing as cellulite is often a combination of fat, yes, but also a loss of tone, a loss of protein structure, a weakening deep within the muscle fibers, and that surrounding fascia. It's not just what's on the surface, it's what's happening underneath that really matters. And this is why so many people feel frustrated, because they focus only on losing weight, thinking that's the answer. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Weight loss alone doesn't fix this. In fact, in many cases, it makes the appearance even more noticeable. Why? Because without muscle strength underneath, there's nothing firm to support the structure. And this leads to the next realization, the one that changes the entire strategy. The real issue is often not excess fat. It's a lack of strength. A lack of muscle activation, a system that's simply not being used the way it was designed to be used. And when that happens, the body adapts in the wrong direction. So instead of just trying to burn fat, the focus has to shift. You need to rebuild what's been lost. You need to replace that atrophy, that weakening, with strength. Because muscle is not just about movement, it's metabolic, it's active, it's the engine that drives fat burning, especially in those stubborn lower body areas. And when you build that engine, when you activate it properly, something incredible starts to happen. Your body begins to change from the inside out. And this is where many women have that moment of realization that what they thought was purely a fat problem is actually, in large part, a muscle problem, a hidden one, a silent one. Now here's another piece that most people overlook, and it's critical. The glute muscles, your butt muscles, are not just another muscle group. They are the largest, most powerful muscles in your entire body. They are the foundation that supports your posture, that keeps your upper body upright, stable, balanced. Without them functioning properly, everything above them is affected. But here's the catch, and this is where modern life quietly works against you. The number one thing that weakens, deactivates, and essentially shuts down your glutes is sitting. Long periods of sitting tell those muscles to switch off. And when they switch off, they stop doing their job. And when that happens, everything we just talked about begins to unfold. But it gets even more interesting, because when we talk about the glutes, we're not talking about just one muscle. There are actually three distinct glute muscles working together, one deeper, one larger and more superficial, and one positioned more to the side. And if you're not targeting all three, you're only solving part of the problem, which brings us to something important. The exercise I'm about to show you isn't random. It's designed very specifically to activate all three of those glute muscles at once. But before we get into that, there's one more layer you need to see, something most people completely miss, because the glutes are not working alone. They're part of an entire chain, and what happens next might surprise you even more. Let me ask you something. What if the real reason your lower body isn't changing has nothing to do with how hard you're working, and everything to do with something quietly disconnected deep inside your body? Because once you see this, once it clicks, you can't unsee it, and it changes how you approach everything. We don't just look at isolated muscles here. We're looking at a chain, a living connected system that runs from your foot to your knee, to your hip, all the way up into your back. And all along that chain, there's fascia, that same connective tissue we talked about earlier, linking everything together like an internal web. Now pause for a second and really think about that. If that entire chain is connected, if tension, weakness, or inactivity exists in one part, it doesn't stay there. It spreads, quietly, subtly. And this is exactly why traditional glute exercises, on their own, only solve a small piece of the problem. They're not wrong, but they're incomplete. And here's where most people get discouraged, because what I'm about to say might feel a little counterintuitive at first. When you begin doing this the right way, when you start rebuilding these muscles and reactivating this chain, you might not see immediate weight loss. In fact, the scale might barely move. And that's the moment where most people think it's not working. But that's the moment you cannot quit. Because something far more important is happening beneath the surface. Strength is returning. And strength comes first. Always. Think about what atrophy really means. It means loss. Loss of muscle, loss of density, loss of that internal support system that shapes and holds your body. And here's the twist. Muscle, by volume, is actually denser than fat. So as you rebuild muscle, as your body starts restoring what was lost, the number on the scale doesn't necessarily drop right away. But your clothes, they start to fit differently. Looser in places that used to feel tight. Subtle changes. Quiet signals that something is working. And this is why your first goal cannot be weight loss. It has to be strength. Because strength is proof. Proof that the muscle is coming back. Proof that the system is waking up again. And once that happens, everything else begins to follow. Now I get this question all the time, almost without fail. What supplements should I take? And I'll be honest with you, there are high-quality supplements out there, and yes, many people search for them, even looking up things like Dr. Berg's supplements on platforms like Amazon to explore options further. But here's the truth most people don't want to hear. No supplement can replace activation. No pill can switch a muscle back on if it's been inactive for years. And that brings us to a very simple, almost deceptively simple test. Something you can do right now without any equipment. Sit down in a chair, then stand up. That's it. Sounds easy, right? But here's the question. Did you feel strain? Did it feel harder than it should? Did your body hesitate for even a split second? Because if it did, that's a sign, a clear one, that atrophy is present, that those muscles aren't firing the way they're supposed to. And here's the deeper issue. It's not just weakness. It's disconnection. Years of sitting, day after day, slowly train your body to stop using the glutes altogether. They don't just weaken, they forget how to engage. And once that happens, even exercises like squats, which are supposed to help, don't fully activate those muscles. You're going through the motion, but the target isn't fully switching on. And that's the hidden problem. But here's where things get interesting and honestly, a little unexpected. Because fixing this isn't just physical, it's neurological, it's mental. There's a reason why elite athletes and even legends like Arnold Schwarzenegger didn't just train their bodies, they trained their minds. When he worked out, he didn't just lift weights. He focused intensely, deliberately, on the muscle he was trying to build. He visualized it contracting, strengthening, growing. And you might be thinking, does that really make a difference? It sounds almost too simple, but there's actual research behind this. Studies have shown that when you combine physical movement with intentional visualization, When you mentally direct your focus to create a specific effect, the results improve significantly. Not slightly, significantly. So when you perform these exercises, I don't want you to just go through the motions. I want you to see it in your mind. Picture your hips becoming tighter, stronger. Imagine your glutes lifting, shaping, supporting your body the way they're supposed to. See the end result before it even happens, because that mental connection is often the missing link. And just when you think you've got all the pieces, there's one more factor, one that can quietly block your progress no matter how well you train. And this is important. If your diet is high in carbohydrates, especially refined ones, it becomes much harder for your body to reveal the changes you're working so hard to create. You might be doing everything right physically and still feel stuck, and that's frustrating. But there's a reason for it. And in a moment, I'm going to show you exactly how this ties into the exercises and why what you do next matters more than you think. Here's the part most people don't want to hear. And yet it explains why so many stay stuck no matter how hard they try. You can be doing the right exercises, you can be sweating, pushing, staying consistent, and still see almost no visible change. Why? Because there's a hidden blocker working against you from the inside. Too much insulin. And where does that come from? Excess carbohydrates, especially the kind that spike your blood sugar over and over again throughout the day. And when insulin stays elevated, something critical happens. Your body shifts into storage mode, not repair mode, not fat-burning mode, storage mode. That means muscle rebuilding slows down, inflammation stays elevated, and that stubborn, uneven fat, the kind that creates that dimpled, marbled look through your hips and midsection, doesn't go anywhere. It just sits there, quietly resisting everything you're doing. So even though it might sound extreme at first, this is where your strategy has to become very clear, very intentional. Lowering your carbohydrate intake isn't optional if you want real change. It's foundational. And when you combine that with intermittent fasting, something powerful begins to happen. Your body finally gets the signal to switch gears, to repair, to rebuild, to burn. And for those who are truly serious, those who want to accelerate results and push their body into a deeper state of fat adaptation, going as far as 1 meal a day, fasting for up to 23 hours, can amplify that effect even more. Now pause for a second, because this is where everything starts to come together. You've got the awareness, you understand the role of muscle, fascia, inactivity, and now insulin. So the question becomes, what do you actually do with all of this? This is where the transformation begins, right here, with movement that actually targets the problem at its root. We're not doing random exercises. We're activating that entire chain, waking up muscles that have been dormant for years. And the first one might look simple, but don't let that fool you. It's called the banded clamshell, and if you've never done it before, it's going to challenge you in ways you don't expect. You place a resistance band just above your knees, then position yourself on your side, and slowly, with control, you begin to open your top knee outward, almost like a hinge, while keeping your feet together. Sounds easy, right? It's not, because what you're targeting here is the outer hip, that area that's often weak, underactive, and directly connected to that lack of tone so many people notice. And here's the key. Don't rush it. Slow out. Slow back in. Feel the muscle. Focus on it. This is where that mind-muscle connection we talked about earlier becomes real. You'll do one side, then switch, and over time, something interesting happens. What once felt shaky and difficult starts to feel controlled, strong, stable. That's progress. That's activation. Now we build on that. The next exercise is the banded glute bridge. Same band, placed just above your knees. But this time, you're lying on your back, feet planted, and as you lift your hips upward, you're not just lifting, you're squeezing, contracting your glutes as hard as you can at the top, holding that tension for a moment, then slowly lowering back down. And here's a question to ask yourself while you do it. Do you actually feel your glutes firing, or are other muscles trying to take over? Because that answer tells you everything. Control the movement. Drive through your heels. Squeeze at the top. Release. Repeat. This is where strength starts to rebuild in a very real way. And then, we take it a step further. Now you're standing, moving, engaging that chain more dynamically. This is called the lateral band walk. Band still above your knees. Slight bend in your hips. A small athletic stance. And now you step to the side. One step, then another. 4 to 5 controlled steps in one direction, then back the other way, back and forth, steady, intentional. And here's what you'll notice. That outer thigh, that side of your glutes, it starts to burn. That's not a bad sign. That's exactly what you want, because those are the muscles that have been asleep, and now they're waking up. Finally, we bring it all together with a movement that ties strength, mobility, and activation into one. The deep squat with side shift. You drop into a squat, elbows gently pressing inside your knees, opening up your hips, and from that position, you slowly shift your weight from one side to the other, left, then right, controlled, deliberate movement. And while it might feel simple, there's a lot happening here beneath the surface. You're activating multiple muscle groups at once. You're engaging your lower back. You're improving mobility in joints that may not have moved properly in years. And for many people, this is the first time they actually feel those deeper muscles working again. And that's the moment things start to change. But here's the real question. Are you just going to watch this, or are you going to try it? Because information alone doesn't transform your body. Action does. And if even a small part of this made you realize something, if it helped you see your body differently, then don't let that awareness fade. Start today, even if it's just one exercise, even if it's just a few minutes, because small, consistent action builds something powerful over time. And if you want to continue this journey, if you're ready to take the next step and work on another area that often gets overlooked, but makes a huge difference in how you look and feel, then there's something else waiting for you. I want you to watch the next video, the one focused on toning your arms, because what you'll learn there connects directly to everything we've talked about here. Go ahead, check it out right now.